Ambassador Thessaly adjusted the collar of her diplomat's uniform, a stiff, uncomfortable affair of synth silk and protocol. Before her, the vast expanse of the orbital shipyard's aegis stretched out like a city of celestial giants. Cruisers, freighters, and unknown vessels of sleek, alien design were being welded, refitted, and retrofitted in a chaotic symphony of industrial activity. It was her first assignment as a junior ambassador, tasked with brokering a trade agreement with the Voth Collective, a race of crystalline beings who communicated through resonant harmonics. The silence in the observation deck was profound, broken only by the distant hum of magnetic clamps and the low thrum of the station's life support. Her human colleague, Specialist Kale, leaned against the transparisteel railing, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. He found the Voth's solemnity amusing, a fact he was careful to hide. For humans, humor was a social tool, a release valve. For the Voth, it was an incomprehensible, aggressive vibration. A sudden, sharp chime echoed through the chamber, announcing the arrival of their hosts. Thessaly straightened, her expression neutral, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This was it, the first step into a larger galaxy, and she was determined not to fail. The Voth delegation moved with an eerie, fluid grace, their crystalline bodies refracting the station's harsh lighting into 1,000 rainbows. They communicated not with speech, but with a series of precisely pitched hums and chimes, a language that felt both beautiful and unnervingly alien. Thessaly had spent months studying the basics, but the sheer complexity was overwhelming. Kale, however, seemed to be having a different kind of trouble. As the lead Voth, a high-ranking diplomat named Kthar, began its introductory address, Kale's shoulders began to shake. A low chuckle escaped his lips, quickly stifled into a cough. The effect on the Voth was instantaneous. The resonant hums of Kthar's speech faltered, turning into a discordant, grating shriek. The other Voth froze, their crystalline forms glowing a faint, angry red. Thessaly felt a cold knot of dread form in her stomach. She shot Kale a look of pure venom, her eyes wide with panic. He gave her a helpless, apologetic shrug, his face flushed with embarrassment. The Voth's language, she now understood with terrifying clarity, was not just communication, it was a delicate, living thing. And human laughter, the most natural expression of joy, was a sonic weapon to them. Kthar's form pulsed with a deep, crimson light, a visual representation of its internal agitation. The entire delegation had fallen silent, their collective consciousness focused on the single point of disruptive energy that was Kale. Thessaly knew she had to act, and fast. She stepped forward, placing herself between Kale and the enraged Voth. Ambassador Kthar, she began, her voice steady and calm, projecting a sonic frequency she had been taught was non-threatening. My colleague is not being aggressive. He is expressing a form of social bonding. She searched for the right words, the Voth equivalent of a friendly jest. He finds the complexity of your shipyard aesthetically pleasing. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. Kthar regarded her, its multifaceted eyes swirling with suspicion. The crimson glow dimmed slightly, but did not fade. Thessaly could feel the pressure in the room, a palpable tension that made the air feel thick and heavy. She risked a glance at Kale, who was now pale and sweating, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He had made a catastrophic error, and now they were all paying the price. The future of human-Voth relations hung by a thread, and she was the only one holding it. The stalemate stretched on, each second an eternity. Kthar emitted a low, probing tone, a question directed at Thessaly. She recognized it as the formal query for an explanation of the dissonant event. She took a deep breath, her mind racing. How could she explain a concept as fundamentally human as humor to a species whose entire psychology was built on harmonic purity? She decided to take a risk. Ambassador, she said, her voice laced with a carefully constructed humility. Our species communicates in a different manner. We use unpredictable sound patterns to convey meaning. She gestured vaguely towards Kale. What you perceive as aggression is, in our culture, a sign of acceptance. A signal that we are at ease. It was a desperate gamble, a complete fabrication. But as she spoke, she noticed something strange. Kthar's color shifted from crimson to a deep, thoughtful indigo. The other Voth's forms softened, their angry red glow fading to a more neutral state. They were considering her words, testing them against their own understanding of the universe. For the first time since Kale's laugh, Thessaly felt a flicker of hope. The moment of fragile peace was shattered by a new sound. A high-pitched, grinding screech echoed through the observation deck, originating from the vast industrial expanse outside. It was mechanical, yet organic, a sound that clawed at the mind. On the main view screen, a section of the outer hull shimmered and warped, then burst open. A tide of black, chitinous matter poured into the station, spreading with horrifying speed. It was the mycelium, a notorious aggressive fungal network known for its ability to infest and consume entire space stations. The Voth delegation recoiled in unison, their crystalline forms vibrating with a new, primal fear. The mycelium was a threat they understood, a physical manifestation of chaos. Their resonant language was useless against it. Thessaly stared in horror as the black mass began to crawl towards the observation deck, its surface pulsing with a sickly, bioluminescent green. Kale stood frozen, his earlier embarrassment forgotten, his face a mask of shock. The diplomatic mission was over. Now, they were just survivors. The mycelium advanced with relentless, purposeful speed, its tendrils probing the deck plating, seeking a way in. The Voth delegation had retreated to the far side of the chamber, their forms glowing with a frantic, defensive blue light, projecting a sonic shield that did little more than sputter against the fungal advance. Kale was the first to react. "The blast doors," he yelled, his voice sharp and commanding. He pointed towards a heavy, reinforced hatch on the far wall. "If we can seal this section, we can contain it." Thessaly, shaken from her stupor, nodded. She turned to the Voth. "Ambassador Kthar, we must work together. The blast doors require synchronized energy signatures to open and close." The Voth looked at her, its form a swirling mix of fear and confusion. It emitted a series of rapid, panic chimes. Thessaly translated the meaning in her mind. "We cannot coordinate with organic chaos." "He's right," Kale interjected, a new kind of energy in his voice. "But we don't need to be in sync. We need to be out of sync." He looked at Thessaly, a wild, brilliant idea dawning in his eyes. "We need to create interference." Kale's plan was insane, born of pure desperation. He explained it to Thessaly in a rapid, excited whisper while the mycelium's advance slowed, sensing their movement. "The doors have a failsafe," he said. "If they receive conflicting energy signatures at the same time, they lock down automatically." "A hard seal." Thessaly stared at him. "You want us to deliberately sabotage our own escape route?" "No." Kale grinned, a look of manic glee in his eyes. "I want to turn the station's own defense system against the intruder. We just need to give it a reason to activate." He turned to Kthar, who was watching them with wary curiosity. "Ambassador," Kale said, his voice suddenly clear and confident. "Your people can project a harmonic shield. We need you to focus all your energy on the door controls, creating a stable, resonant frequency." Kthar emitted a questioning hum. "And what will your people do?" Kale's grin widened. "We'll make noise. A lot of it. We'll give the system a reason to panic." Thessaly and Kale moved to the control panel for the blast doors, their movements synchronized and efficient. Kale pulled out a multi-tool and began to override the safety protocols, his fingers flying across the interface. Thessaly acted as a lookout, her eyes fixed on the advancing fungal wall. The Voth delegation had formed a half-circle around the door controls, their crystalline bodies pulsing in unison. Kthar extended a delicate, crystalline appendage and touched the main console. A low, pure tone filled the chamber, a note of perfect stability. It was the anchor. Kale finished his work and gave Thessaly a nod. She took a deep breath and, on his signal, slammed her fist onto an auxiliary panel. Instead of a clean signal, the console emitted a burst of static, a chaotic hiss of white noise. The effect was immediate. The Voth's pure harmonic collided with the human-generated static, creating a dissonant, ear-splitting shriek that made the deck plates vibrate. The main console for the blast doors sparked and overloaded, and with a deafening clang, the massive doors began to slide shut, sealing the observation deck from the encroaching mycelium. The silence that followed the blast door's closure was absolute, a vacuum left by the previous cacophony. The Voth delegation stood frozen, their forms a dull, stunned gray. Kthar slowly retracted its appendage from the console, its multifaceted eyes fixed on Kale and Thessaly. The mycelium, now contained on the other side of the sealed doors, beat against the metal with a wet, thudding sound, a constant reminder of their narrow escape. Thessaly felt a tremor run through her, the adrenaline finally beginning to ebb. She had gambled everything on Kale's reckless plan, and it had worked. She looked at Kale, who was breathing heavily, a triumphant, almost cocky smile on his face. He had done it. He had turned his greatest weakness, his unpredictable, chaotic nature, into their greatest strength. Kthar finally broke the silence, emitting a single, complex tone that shimmered with a new emotion. It was not the resonant harmony of their language, but something else entirely. It was a question, a sound of profound, alien curiosity. Thessaly realized, with a jolt, that it was the Voth's attempt at understanding. Kale walked towards Kthar, his steps slow and deliberate. He stopped a few feet away from the crystalline being and held out his hand, palm open. Kthar regarded the gesture, its form shifting through a spectrum of colors, from deep blue to pale yellow. It was processing the gesture, the offering of peace without words. Thessaly watched, her heart in her throat. This was the true test. Kthar extended a delicate filament of crystal, and it brushed gently against Kale's palm. A soft, resonant chime echoed through the chamber, a sound of acceptance. The other Voths relaxed their defensive postures, their forms softening into a calm, warm orange. The unspoken tension had been broken. Thessaly allowed herself a small, relieved smile. The mycelium still beat against the blast doors, a contained but persistent threat. But for now, they were safe. And more importantly, they had proven something. They had shown the Voth that humanity's greatest weapon was not its strength or its technology, but its unbreakable ability to find a way forward, even when that way was paved with mistakes and laughter. Kale looked at Thessaly, his earlier bravado gone, replaced by a quiet, profound understanding. They had faced the void, and they had not been found wanting.